Welcome to the Bourbon Friday Show. We are talking business and bourbon. I'm your host, Nick Niehaus, and I am talking to Mary Louise Helbig, who is the executive director of ITEN, and also my former neighbor. So it's good to see you again.
It's good
back
to see
in
you
T-Rex,
again.
right?
Yeah.
So first of all, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, yeah. Well, first thing I want to say is congratulations, because I saw on the news the other day that you were named as one of the most influential businesswomen in St. Louis.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I appreciate
so that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, it's quite an honor.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk about ITEN, right?
Sure.
So why don't tell me what ITEN stands for first.
Yeah, so ITEN stands for IT Entrepreneur Network.
Okay.
And we were founded 11 years ago as a nonprofit organization to help tech startups in the St. Louis region.
Gotcha.
So we work with tech startups. All of our programs and services are free.
Nice.
And what we do is we work with them from idea stage all the way through prototype MVP to market entry and growth and scaling. So we really help them on the commercialization journey.
Okay.
And we do that with mentoring services. We have mentors who are subject matter experts. We also have entrepreneurs in residence who are like our power mentors.
Yeah, wow.
One of us is joining us, is here today,
Oh,
Stephen.
very cool.
And then we also have programs that help them. So for instance, if they're pre-product, we have a program called Eureka, and that helps them through proof of concept and validation. And as they move farther along and they have product in market and they want to start raising money from investors, from outside investors beyond their friends and family group, we have the investor readiness program. So that really helps them prepare for how to pitch to investors, how to talk to investors, and actually getting their house in order and getting a deal room set up and all that really fun stuff you have to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps there. Right?
There is. It's raising money is a lot of work.
Yeah, I've heard it's basically a full-time job when you
it
get to
is.
that stage.
It usually
right?
it usually should be for at least one of the executive team members.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mean you don't just ask for money and people just start
No,
throwing
you
it at you?
don't. No, it doesn't work that way. Somehow,
there's a little more effort
I've been
involved.
involved in several startups myself, and it's never worked that way.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, so to speak. Right?
It's very much a sales process.
Yeah.
And just like sales, the first time you knock on someone's door or pick up the phone, you usually don't get a yes.
True. Yeah.
And it usually requires that you build a pipeline and build relationships long term. And so it really is, as you said, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I'll probably have some questions for you on that in a second. But I want to go back a second because you were talking about ITEN starting 11 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I think, we were talking before the show about kind of how much the scene in St. Louis has really blossomed over like the past decade or so.
Right.
So I guess what was the need for ITEN back then? I mean, were there a lot of tech startups, or was it more about encouraging that to happen maybe?
There were the tech startups were there.
Sure.
But what our founder Jim Bersunas noticed was that there wasn't anywhere for them to get help. So ITEN was really one of the first, what we call an entrepreneur support organization, an ESO. We were one of the first ESOs on the scene.
Wow.
And Jim himself, he not only did he start ITEN, but he was instrumental in launching Tech, one of the first accelerators in St. Louis.
Yeah.
He was instrumental in helping T-Rex get started.
Wow.
And as you mentioned, the scene is really growing and vibrant. We produce, when we do our annual report, our impact report, an ecosystem map. And that ecosystem map in the last 5 years has quadrupled.
Really?
So the number of ESOs, entrepreneur support organizations in the St. Louis metropolitan area in the last 5 years has gone from just around 20, in the low 20s to over 80.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
So the ecosystem is really growing and really dynamic.
Well, it's exciting, yeah. And I think this is, one of those things that people certainly don't seem to understand about St. Louis. I mean, you read the articles, we got this great startup scene, it's really healthy, but you get outside of downtown, and I think a lot of people still don't really realize this is going on right now, right?
Right.
So as we're adding, these support organizations, talk to me a little bit about, the scene itself. I mean, are we seeing substantial year-over-year growth, and is the number of startups going up, or revenue, or what are the metrics that we're seeing improve?
Right. So I can tell you that what we measure our success on is economic impact.
Sure.
Because what we do is help companies get started, and those companies hire people, they produce revenue, they generate payrolls. So those are all economic impact indicators, right? And that's what we look at year over year. So we are probably approaching having helped 1,000 startups since we started 11 years ago. And at any given time, We're working with probably about 170 companies.
Really?
Yeah. So, but like to date, I mentioned our investor readiness program as an example.
Yeah.
To date, our companies that have graduated that program have gone on to raise $190 million in funding.
Wow.
And as far as jobs go, our companies created over about 260 new jobs in the St. Louis metro area last year.
Really?
And since 2012, they've created over 1,500 jobs.
Holy cow. Wow, that's incredible.
And that's just ITEN,
yeah,
right?
I know. There's all these other organizations too.
So there's all these other organizations that are also, helping startups to get started, and move through their commercialization process. There's a great report that just came out on job creation.
Okay.
And it's a statewide report by SourceLink out of University of Missouri KC, but it is a statewide report, and they talk about how instrumental the entrepreneurial and innovation community has been in job creation.
Sure.
And in the last 5 years, startups have basically created over 40,000 jobs a year.
A year.
A year.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
In Missouri.
Holy cow.
So
okay.
it's very real.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that because in St. Louis, I know there's this history of kind of these Fortune 500 companies, and we've lost them over the years, and you still sometimes read about like, oh, this headquarters is moving here, and all this, and that's good stuff.
Yes.
But it's so crazy how few people realize how impactful, encouraging the startup scene really has been already, and is continuing to be, I would assume, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we have some incredible entrepreneurial organizations that started here that, sure, it might go back 100 years with Anheuser-Busch.
Sure.
But even in the shorter term, someone like Express Scripts.
Yeah.
20 years ago, they were a small company and they were really just getting started.
It's hard to believe now.
So
but
when you think about now the thousands of people they employ, in St. Louis, and yes, the moves and the mergers happen, but for the last 20 years, they were here and are still here.
Sure.
But they're contributing to St. Louis and the region.
Yeah. Well, and if anything, if you think of things as, hey, let's grow this stuff here, then it's almost a win for the city to have a company get to that size and eventually. I mean, it's pretty big to get acquired at that point, right? But it still happens. But the point is, okay, cool. Now let's start the next one, right? Let's grow another multi-billion-dollar company.
Who knows? That's the thing is, if we can kind of foster and support these entrepreneurs and innovators, and they start to launch new businesses, who knows what will be the next Anheuser-Busch or the next Express Scripts or the next Enterprise, Rent-A-Car.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're looking to accomplish.
So what do you think, in terms of as a region, a community, maybe the small business community in Greater St. Louis, like, what should we be doing to support this more? I mean, is it awareness, or is it, we're looking for more money to pour into it? I mean, what do you see as like the biggest needs right now?
I think you've hit on two of the three.
Sure. Okay. Good.
So, first of all, the awareness piece. And I think you touched on this even a little bit earlier. I'm surprised sometimes in St. Louis that the farther I get from downtown, or I kind of look at we office at T-Rex downtown, and Cortex is just a few miles away.
Sure.
That's kind of the innovation corridor.
Okay.
But it's unfortunate, but it's real, that the farther you get outside of that, the less people are really aware of what's going on in that core innovation core. And I'm kind of surprised consistently, unfortunately. So I think we need to have a bigger, stronger voice about what is going on and why that matters, and for all the positive reasons, for the community. St. Louis has been and continues to be acknowledged as one of the top cities for entrepreneurship and innovation. So we should be very proud of that. But I think we could toot our horn a little bit more.
Sure.
And then on kind of to the second point was, the competition around us is increasing.
Okay.
So while the ecosystem in St. Louis has grown significantly by a factor of 4, there's also more and more going on around us. So the competition from outside of St. Louis is increasing.
Okay.
And so, sometimes we'll talk to companies and they will tell us that they're looking at settling in St. Louis, but there's a hot scene going on over in Indianapolis.
Oh, okay.
So all of a sudden we're competing, right? So we have to continue to find ways to work together within this ecosystem to make sure that we're really providing the services that these startups need. And I think, one way to do that and could be really significant and impactful is to get more of our corporations involved.
Okay.
And for example, we have a corporate innovation program where we really, on a curated basis, make introductions to the corporations and our startups. So that they can join together, come together, and engage in some form or fashion, however they determine is appropriate for them, whether that's, mentoring, testing a product, becoming a customer, but supporting those startups here locally.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing is, kind of bringing the community tighter together and really supporting the startups that are here. Then the third thing, which you always hear about from startups, is they want money, right?
Of course, yeah.
And I understand that and appreciate that. But one area really specifically that I think we need to pay attention to, and if we do, can really set us apart, is helping startups when they're at the proof of concept stage.
Okay.
So they don't really have a product yet. And there's some programs out there that I think that we could model after that are going on in other markets where they give the entrepreneurs or the startups small amount of money, less than $20,000.
Okay.
But it's really to help them validate their concept and do better work around that. A lot of them need to do better work around that before they go too far too fast.
Okay.
And I think that's something that if we did that too, it would be a magnet to draw more startups to the St. Louis area.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So are there specific programs outside of St. Louis you're seeing do a good job of that we can model, you think?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
there are? Okay.
So there's a program out of Kansas City called Digital Sandbox, and they've been doing it about 3 years. And then BioGenerator actually has kind of modeled a program for life science companies around that, right?
But specifically for life science.
But for life science. So I want to do that for the tech sector.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so getting back into some of the nitty gritty of what ITEN does, so I think it's important that we make sure people understand all of the options. And I know you guys provide a lot of services,
yes,
opportunities.
We do.
Let's start at the very beginning, right? So somebody has an idea or a kernel of an idea, so to speak. Should they be in touch with you then, or is there a point in the process where they should first reach out to ITEN? Yeah,
so great question, because it's also what I think makes it hard sometimes for us to explain, because when people talk about an accelerator, they know that program is like, it's a 12-week program and it starts on this date, or, you know what I mean? It's a different. And our programs are all very fluid to meet the entrepreneur where they are.
Okay.
So we will work with an entrepreneur if they have an idea in their head.
Okay.
We'll work with them if they already have product or they're trying to build product. And we'll work with them if they're, have product and customers, but they're getting ready to raise money. So we really can meet the entrepreneur where they are, regardless of what stage they are in the commercialization process.
Perfect. Okay.
And all of our programs and services are free. Our only criteria is that you have scalable, innovative tech.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter what industry.
A little bit for me,
So you have created technology, application software that you can introduce to an industry segment, and it can be used on a wide scale, large number basis.
Gotcha.
So it's not just maybe I'm telling you the what it's not is sometimes easier.
That's helpful,
if I'm going to open a bakery on the corner and I'm going to be tech enabled, meaning I'm going to use technology for placing orders or making reservations or something like that.
Yeah.
You've got to be the creator of the technology, and that's got to be your business.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But since you guys do work with people at such vastly different stages, I mean, it could still be kind of idea stage. You don't necessarily have to have built the tech yet.
Correct.
To get involved.
Correct.
Okay, just to be clear. Yeah.
We don't have programs for everybody. I mean, we have programs, but what we also do is we work as a community connector. So we produce this cool little map in our annual report, and it's the entrepreneur pathway.
Okay.
And it talks about the stages that you go through, the commercialization stages starting with idea. And on that map, we show the flags for the ITEN programs. So the programs and services we have, but then we also show the flags for some of our community partners.
Oh, cool.
So we purposefully, use our programs and services, but we also say, hey, look over. I mean, we collaborate with BioGenerator. If someone is like a health tech company, because we both can help them, right?
Yeah.
Some of our early stage companies will refer them to Square One, right? Some of our companies, I can't say who, are finalists in Arch Grants right now.
Cool.
So we help them prepare and apply for that.
That's great.
An upcoming event, I think you guys are going to talk about MacTank.
Okay.
companies that are presenting in that all happen to be ITEN companies.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
we really
like
a lot of collaboration, a lot of cross-referring. We just yesterday announced that one of our community partners is SLU's I-Core program.
Oh, really? Cool.
So that is a program, early stage proof of concept, that we would say to people, go apply to be in this program. They will help you, cool. with customer discovery.
Yes, and kind of guide them to the right place, which is very helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, especially, I remember when we first had the idea for our business, and you're just sitting in, they always say the garage, but I say the basement because that's where I was living at the time, And you have no idea. You have no idea where to start. I mean, there's, at that point, there weren't these names of where you would go to, right? And now you have these programs. You can say, hey, go talk to ITEN, and then they'll take care of you from there, right?
Yeah.
So I think the important question then is, how does somebody get in touch with you? What are the ways they can get started with you?
So the best way to reach us is to go to our website. It's ITEN, ITEN, STL.org.
Okay.
And right on that homepage, you're going to see a button if you want to be a mentor. We're always looking for mentors who are great subject matter experts who are willing to volunteer their time.
Cool.
If you want to become a member of ITEN, and it's free, or if corporate businesses want to participate in our corporate innovation program, all those buttons are right there on the homepage.
Cool. Everything you need.
Everything you need. Just click on the button.
All right. Very cool. Well, easy enough.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. Well, we got a couple minutes left.
Okay.
And so we're going to move to the last segment of the show here. I'm going to invite Eric, who's the founder of Bourbon Friday, on.
Welcome.
And Eric has selected a bourbon just for you.
All right.
Tell us about it. Yeah.
So this is David Nicholson, 1843. And we have talked about David Nicholson before on the show. But I thought it was really appropriate because you are very St. Louis focused, have been throughout your entire career.
Yeah.
Well, David Nicholson is a brand that started here in St. Louis. In fact, it was in a grocery store right up the street, 2 blocks away right now where Bread Company is. That's Panera for everybody outside of St. Louis.
It's really Breadco, though. Let's be honest. It's just Breadco.
It's just Breadco. So that started up right at the street in the back of a grocery store. Now, it passed hands a few times to some other larger distilleries and that kind of thing. But then it came back to St. Louis. The brand was purchased by Luxco, another St. Louis company.
Right.
And since we're talking about sustainable, scalable companies, Luxco, started out small company, one brand 60 years ago. They now have about 100 brands under their private label. And then they just opened up their first bourbon distillery down in Bardstown, Kentucky, called the Lux Row Distillers. And that's where this is now being made. And also, one last thing is the master distiller, the most important person at the distillery, graduated from SLU, like you.
Oh, wonderful. How cool.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cool. Yeah, there you go. Give it a try, right?
Cheers.
See what you think. And I guess while we're sampling it, Eric, you can get onto the events. What do we got coming up this week?
Sure. So real quick off the top, we mentioned them last week. On Saturday, we have Creative Mornings St. Louis up at Herb Arts. The topic is Muse this week. And also, I didn't mention it last week, there is free yoga before the event.
Oh.
On Sunday, we have the STL Square Off Pizza Festival. So St. Louis Pizza, if you're a fan, go to the Hill. And then a little bit sort of middle next week, on Wednesday, we have Startup Grind. The title of the event is Big Brands Built Here, and they have Gabe Lozano, the CEO of Lockerdome.
Oh,
certainly one of the largest startups
That'll be
here.
awesome.
Yeah, and that's at Spaces, and this is a fireside chat with him. And then Wednesday, you had mentioned it, we have Mac Tank at Missouri Athletic Club. Right. This is the final pitch competition. There's not a ton of information out about it. I found out about it because Spendet is one of the companies.
Yeah, that's one of ours.
Yeah. So and also congratulations, Spendet. They just got accepted into Capital Innovators.
Yes, they did.
Awesome.
Outside 360 and Spendet are, two of our companies, and both are accepted into Cap Innovators. So very exciting.
Congrats,
And then Thursday, of course, we have Venture Cafe. They hadn't really posted any of the larger events for next week yet, so I don't have any highlights for you today. But also on Thursday night, there's the Geek Gala by Launch Code, and this is their annual fundraiser event, big party. So go out, support that, because Launch Code is amazing.
They are.
And then Friday, the applications are due for the Pet Care Innovation Prize. It's a $10,000 cash prize. I think that might be for up to 5 companies, and then they get put into a Purina Purina Boot Camp for pet products, and that application is due. And then Friday, we're back here at Covo for another great Bourbon Friday. We have Jason Gifford, the general manager of The Last Hotel, which that just opened here recently. If you haven't been to The Last Hotel, you should go and check it out. Like, the view from the roof is one of the best views in St. Louis.
Oh, really? Yeah. Definitely have to check that out. Very cool. Well, Eric, as always, thanks for joining us. Appreciate the events and the bourbon. Good stuff.
Thank you. This is great.
Yeah. Mary Louise, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for what you do. It's great, and you tell great stories and support our community. So thank you very much.
It's a lot of fun, and it's a good mission. We enjoy doing it. So thank you so much. For those of you tuning in, we do want to thank you for watching today. We want to thank a couple different organizations, Covo in particular, off the bat, because they are our host here. We appreciate you hosting both the show and the event every week. Thank you to EQ for being our streaming partner and distributing the show. And I want to personally thank Ian Brown behind the camera, who is now running things solo and doing a great job for us through Connect Marketing. So thank you so much, Ian. Thank you for watching. Please join us again next Friday at 4:30 for the Bourbon Friday show. We'll talk to you then.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching. We truly hope you enjoyed it. Please like and share this episode. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. To stay up to date, follow us on social. We are at Bourbon Fridays on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. See you next time.